Today's content framing question is, how do Alan Say's grandfather's journey and tea with milk build my knowledge? And today's craft question is, how do I draft a compare and contrast essay? Hey third graders, so this is your classwork for today. I know it says handout 12A, and this should look familiar for those of you that watched lesson 12 already, but we are going to continue working on this writing planner today. However, if you did not work on this and you did not watch lesson 12, that's module 3, lesson 12 video from last week, then I want you to pause this video and watch that video first, because I explain how to write the 2 body paragraphs and kind of going through the task for our first focusing question, task 1, this writing piece. So again, I want to remind you to please pause this video if you have not watched the previous lesson video, okay? So I'm trusting you, and it'll be very obvious when I look through your writing to see who was paying attention or who watched last week's video and who didn't. And I just wanted to also emphasize that the way that the lessons are made is so that they build off of each other. So you're, like we've talked about many, many times, you're building your knowledge, right? So you need to first complete lessons 1 through 11 to even understand 12, right? We break down the text through each lesson, and we're reviewing different skills and learning different skills as well. So it's really, really important that you watch the previous lessons, you work through those assignments to come to this point, because as we say throughout the year, our writing pieces kind of take everything that we've learned for the past couple of lessons, and it's almost like our own evidence that we've learned all these different skills during that time, and now we're showcasing them, right? And so what we've been working on a lot is the similarities and differences between 2 texts as well as between 2 characters. And this writing piece will really help me and help you to understand what you were able to take away. So here are some more examples of sentence frames that you can include for the 2 sentences within each body paragraph, the 2 example sentences. So the first one, for the first body paragraph, about similarities. For example, in grandfather's journey, grandfather blank. Then for the second sentence, second example from tea with milk, similarly in tea with milk, Masako blank. Okay. And now for the second body paragraph, for your contrast, in grandfather's journey, grandfather blank, and then on the other hand, in tea with milk, Masako blank. Right? So you see here that we have some linking words and phrases at the beginning of our sentences to help us organize our ideas. Okay, so now that that's out of the way, for those of you that did complete it, now we're going to go through the intro and the conclusion today. All right, so here's your introduction paragraph here that you are going to complete today, as well as your conclusion here, okay? However, I'm going to give you the introduction sentence that is right here. And all I want you to do is I want you to write a hook, okay? And I'm going to show you after this video of the writing planner, I'm going to show you the image and go through the 3 different types of hooks again. And please go back to your old classwork to see and to remind yourself and review of what a hook should look like as well. All right. So for the introduction sentence, I'm going to give it to you. It is going to be, Alan Say shows some of the challenges immigrants face in his 2 books, Grandfather's Journey and Tea with Milk. Right. So we're introducing the topic, which we know needs to be in our introduction paragraph, that immigrants face challenges, right? We're also introducing the text and author that we are writing about. So we're introducing Grandfather's Journey, Tea with Milk, and we're also mentioning the author's name, Alan Say. Okay. So now I'm giving you the introduction sentence. So all you need to do is copy down this sentence into your own writing planner, okay? And for your hook, I want you to think of your own. And now for the conclusion, I'm going to show you another graphic that will remind us the purpose behind a conclusion paragraph. So before you begin writing in your planner in module 3, lesson 12, classwork, just want to review some elements of an effective introduction paragraph and elements of an effective conclusion paragraph. So again, I just want to emphasize that in your introduction paragraph, it needs to make sure it catches the reader's attention and it presents the topic of the essay. Again, looking back at the task sheet to see what the topic of the essay is. And a conclusion paragraph needs to restate the main idea of an essay. Again, not the main idea of the text necessarily, but of the essay, what you're writing about. And it also needs to explain why the idea is important. Kind of sounds like almost a lesson that the author may be teaching you, or just knowledge of the world that you have learned through these two texts. So these are the 3 different types of hooks that we've discussed before. And again, hooks are sentences that catches the reader's attention. So you want to have that first sentence in your writing piece that'll really catch the reader's attention, the reader being myself. Okay? So the 3 different types of hooks that we've discussed before is a question, emotional, and facts. Okay? So a question hook makes the reader wonder about something and gives them a purpose for reading. An emotion hook or emotional hook makes readers interested in a topic that they might not have thought about before. So if we're thinking about challenges that immigrants face, maybe you can make the reader feel a certain type of emotion. Think about what kind of feeling do you want your reader to come with as they're reading your paper, okay? And finally, facts. You can write an interesting fact in the beginning of your paper to also grab the reader's attention and to make them more curious about the topic. But please make sure it's related to our 2 texts or to challenges that immigrants face. So here's an example of an introduction paragraph that we've talked about from lesson 4. And so the question was, consider everything that you have learned about grandfather from reading Grandfather's Journey. Does grandfather change during the story? The example I gave you was a question hook. What makes a person change? This should get the reader wondering what makes people change and how this writing piece relates to that. Now, just like the introduction paragraph that you need to write, you also need to include the topic, which is the text name, the author's name, as well as what you're writing about. So in this case, we need to include the text, Grandfather's Journey, the author's name, Alan Say, as well as the main character changes as he grows older. Then for here, we included the important idea and what the supporting points are. Again, answering the question that the prompt is asking. So at the beginning of the story, grandfather's curious and eager to explore new places. At the end of the story, he only wants to revisit the places he already knows and loves. So this topic statement was specific to the question that's being asked. Does grandfather change during the story? So don't forget that your writing prompt for focusing question task 1 is how were grandfather and Masako's immigration experiences similar and how are they different? Okay, so I just want you to remember that that is the topic of your essay. This is your prompt that you need to answer throughout this paper. What I also want you to think about is how these questions are related to the focusing question that you've been looking at and watching at the beginning of all the lesson videos from lesson 1. And that is what challenges do immigrants face in a new country? And so I want you to be thinking about grandfather and Masako's immigration experiences as the challenges that they faced when they immigrated. All right, so here is your first little intro to more information about Japan. Japan is also known as the land of the rising sun. Japan is an island country located in Asia. It is east of China, North Korea, and South Korea. Japan is made up of more than 3,000 islands. The four largest islands are Honshu, Hokkaido, Kyushu, and Shikoku. All of the islands can fit inside the U.S. state of California. Japan has a lot of mountains. About 80% of Japan is covered in mountains. The highest point is Mount Fuji, which is a cone shaped volcano. Most of Japan's population lives in the flatter areas. Many people especially live near the coast. For example, Tokyo is the largest city in Japan, and it is also the capital. Tokyo is located near Japan's eastern coast. The Pacific Ocean is to the east of Japan. To the west is the Sea of Japan, which is also called the East Sea. Did you know Japan has a nickname? It is also known as the land of the rising sun. Japanese people call their own country Nihon or Nippon. In Japanese, this means the sun's origin or where the sun rises. Okay, so here's just a little blurb that I want you to read through, and you will also be able to include some information and facts that you learned from here to your classwork today. All right, so here is your passage that you're going to read today to answer some questions afterwards. And this is to help build your knowledge of Japan. Okay. Japan, Introduction to Japan by ReadWorks. So you can see here that there's a map, which is a nonfiction text feature. You see Tokyo is bolded and in big letters, which usually tells you on the map, especially if there's like a little star, that'll tell you that that is the capital of the country or the state, depending on what you're looking at. All right, so you can see here that Tokyo is here. Yokohama is another big city. So big cities are also noted here. Osaka, Fukuoka, Hiroshima, Kitakyushu, Sendai, Akita, and Sapporo. Okay. And so some of these should sound familiar, like Osaka, right? And Yokohama, which is where Masako and Joseph end up moving to and starting a family there, right? But originally, Masako was from a small town in Japan. We don't know exactly where, but we know that she took a train straight to Osaka, which is a big city, which is why, again, you can see Osaka here. Big cities, right? Okay, now let's read. Japan is a powerful and wealthy country in Asia. It is made up of four major islands and several small islands. The capital of Japan is Tokyo. Over 127 million people live in Japan, making it one of the most densely populated countries in the world. To the Japanese, Japan is called Nippon, meaning source of the sun. It is also known as land of the rising sun. Japan's national flag is a simple red circle on a white background. The red circle represents the rising sun. Japan's history began thousands of years ago. Around 660 BC, a man named Jimmu was proclaimed Japan's first emperor. For centuries, Japan was closed off from the rest of the world. The island nation kept to itself, except for when it waged war on the neighboring countries of Korea and China, sorry. Japan refused to trade with foreign countries, especially Western countries. In 1853, a man named Matthew Perry traveled to Japan from America. His goal was to encourage Japan to open up its ports to the world and begin trading. Perry was successful. Japan became a powerful member of the world's trading community. The land in Japan is hilly and beautiful. Most people live in and around the coastal cities, but nature hasn't always been kind. Two major natural forces have plagued the Japanese people for its entire history: earthquakes and tsunamis. Small earthquakes occur in Japan on a daily basis. Every once in a while, a major earthquake strikes, causing thousands of deaths and unbelievable destruction. A tsunami is a huge ocean wave brought on by earthquakes. Some waves have been so large they have wiped out entire Japanese cities. Japan is a nation jam-packed with art, culture, and industry. Japanese cuisine is popular throughout the world. Japanese architecture and art can be found in homes in Asia, Europe, and North America. Many home electronics and cars are made in Japan. Toyota, Nissan, and Honda are all Japanese brands. For many people, Japanese cartoons and comics are the very best. Although Japan may be a world away, its influence can be felt everywhere, even where you live. Also, for those of you that have the Nintendo Switch, that is also a Japanese brand. All right, now let's go to our questions. All right, so here is the question set for that passage I just read to you out loud. I also cut out parts of the passage onto the Google form so that you can look at it and read it independently without this lesson video. All right, so here's that map again, and here is the passage. All right, number 1 says Japan is part of which continent? A, North America, B, South America, C, Australia, or D, Asia? Number 2, all of the following describe Japan, except A, very dry, B, hilly, C, a group of islands, or D, old. Okay. Number 3, in the past, Japan's relationships with Korea and China have been A, harmonious, B, troubled, C, based on trade, or D, codependent. That means codependent meaning they rely on each other. Okay. Number 4, tsunamis are caused by A, hurricanes, B, tornadoes, C, earthquakes, or D, floods. Number 5, which word best describes how Japanese feel about their country? A, proud, B, indifferent, C, ashamed, or D, disloyal. Okay. And then your last 2 questions are a short response. How has Japan and its art, culture, or industry played a role in the United States? Please make sure you write in complete sentences. The last one asks, write one new fact you learned about Japan. Any new fact from this passage or the first passage that I read to you in the video can be included. So your last question that you need to answer for today's lesson is, where are your ancestors from? And if you're not sure, or if you can, if there is someone at home that can answer that question for you, that would be awesome. Right, so please write down the country where that ancestor or family member immigrated from, and if they don't remember or you're not completely sure, that is okay too. You can write that as well. It's important to know where our roots come from, and just like how Miss Toma shares about her roots, I would love to know yours as well.
Okay, I'm bored in the house and I'm in the house bored. Bored in the house and I'm in the house bored. I'm bored in the mug and I'm in the house bored. And I'm bored in the mug and I'm in the house bored. Bored in the house, bored in the house, bored. Bored in the house, bored in the house, bored. I'm bored in the mug and I'm in the